Hello there, and welcome back. Tonight we aren't summoning anything, we're listening. 5 Ouija accounts pulled from the darker corners of the internet, each with the same simple lesson. The board has rules, and it punishes the curious. Don't play alone. Don't ask for proof you can't live with. Don't invite names you don't know how to send away. And above all, say goodbye. We'll start in basements and dorm rooms and end at doors that answer when no one's there. Keep the lights low, keep your fingers light, and if something spells faster than your pulse, let go. I'm Dr. Insomnia. Let's begin. My friend mentioned she had a Ouija board. I begged to see it. She said no, then relented on one condition: she wouldn't touch it. She set it on the coffee table like a tray for something that didn't eat. The room had that weekend sleepover smell: microwave butter, shampoo, the faint electrical scent of chargers. I asked the beginner's question, "Is anyone here?" and waited. The silence felt busy, like the house was working behind the walls. Nothing. So I said the stupid thing teenagers say when they're trying to turn fear into a dare. If anything is here and won't talk, you're a coward. The planchette stayed as still as a dead fly. We packed the board away, laughed too loud, and pretended the dare hadn't been heard by anything that could take it personally. A week later, the weather broke its voice. Thunder rolled in like furniture being dragged across the sky. Rain came down in moving sheets. I woke because the darkness felt heavy, a pressure you get right before a door slams. The digital clock glowed a harmless number. I listened to the house breathe and almost fell back under when I heard it. Downstairs, shaped like a whisper forced through a throat that didn't like language. "Get the boy." Everything inside me cinched tight. I told myself it was the TV, a storm alert, a neighbor. The rain softened for a beat and the house went still enough that I could hear the small tick of the baseboard heater cooling. I exhaled. The voice came again, closer, unkind. "Get the boy." At the same instant, the downstairs door slammed hard enough to jog a photo frame on my wall. No one slept down there. There were no open windows. We didn't have drafts like that. The slam had direction, intent, the way a person closes a door when they mean the conversation is over. I lay there sweating into the sheets, counting backward by sevens like I'd read for panic, listening for footsteps that didn't come. The storm argued with itself. The house kept its breath. I thought about getting up and didn't, because if I stayed in bed, then the hallway would remain theoretical and the stairs would stay unwalked, and whatever had announced itself wouldn't have to be seen to be real. I kept saying the same sentence in my head: "It's the wind, it's the wind," until language lost its shape. Morning behaved like nothing had happened. Sky rinsed clean, damp smell in the carpet, coffee steaming in a room that belonged to ordinary people. I checked the downstairs door and found the latch unbroken, the jamb unmarked, a small crescent of scuffed paint where the knob had kissed drywall. No footprints, no wet on the mat, no proof that would satisfy anyone but the person who'd heard his name spoken by an empty stairwell. I never touched a board again. I learned 2 lessons that night. The first is that silence is not the same as safety. The second is simpler, meaner, and I wish I hadn't earned it the way I did. If you call a thing a coward, it might decide to prove it isn't, using your name as the test. We were 4 kids orbiting a thrift store board with a stain like a thumbprint. We made rules as if rules were armor. No jokes during answers. 2 fingers each. If anyone says stop, we stop. The board warmed to us fast. Old pet names, street numbers, the exact word painted on a childhood bedroom door. Someone asked what cruise ship they'd been on at 6. The planchette slid to spell it, letter by letter, like a teacher taking attendance. We laughed and said the obvious things: idiomotor, subconscious, because it's easier to name a trick than admit you're being seen. That's when the room learned how to be cold in patches, You could move your hand through it and feel a temperature step down, like a staircase cut into air. We slid a tea light into the cold. The flame leaned hard sideways and kept burning, not up but along, as if someone were whispering against it. We should have said goodbye. Instead, we asked a question we had no business asking. How long do we have left? The board handed out comfort like party favors. 57, 63, 72. Everyone smiled, that small private smile people wear when they're told they'll live long enough to be a ghost in someone else's story. My turn. The planchette went to 1, then 0. 10 years? I asked, trying to sound bored. It slid to DAYS. The word didn't feel like letters. It felt like a room getting smaller. We all waited for someone to say, "Okay, that's enough." No one did. The board added detail in slow knives, a name, Emma, and a shape, accident, until my future looked like a newspaper I didn't want to read. We tested it like fools test fences. 3 days later, we asked again. 7, 2 days after that. 5, the countdown wore the air thin. I started carrying a pocket Bible and a cross like hardware could outvote whatever we'd invited. I told my dad. He rolled his eyes until I made a board out of printer paper and used a CD as a planchette. The CD moved. My father's mouth did a small, frightened thing I'd never seen before. He said I didn't have to go to school on the day. That morning I treated every intersection like a loaded gun. I blocked every Emma in my contacts, stayed off sidewalks when the light changed, counted the seconds in the walk signal man's blink. Noon came and went. The sky was the exact blue that makes you forgive a town everything. By evening, nothing had happened except a quiet so loud I could hear my pulse in my ears. When midnight clicked and the day fell away, I sat on the floor and cried the kind of tears you save for after. People asked if I felt stupid. I said yes, because it was easier. The true answer is messier. Belief changes how you move through a world full of edges, and sometimes that change keeps you alive. Every now and then I stop at a crosswalk and watch a car roll a red. I wait a beat longer than I have to. I hear that board spelling ugly things and think, maybe I didn't dodge a curse. Maybe I dodged what fear could have made me do. My girlfriend's story starts with hospital air, plastic and sanitizer, and the soft tone nurses use when they're holding bad news by the edges. Johnny had cystic fibrosis. She and her friend Shelley visited after school, smuggling in magazines, swapping gossip with the gravity turned way down so it wouldn't break. Johnny could make an IV pole look like a skateboard. He could turn a cough into a joke that made the monitor beep like applause. One night, after a visit that didn't feel good or bad, just thin, they went back to Shelley's and pulled out a Ouija board to ask the universe for a win. It behaved the way party tricks behave. Small answers, flirty dodges, the kind of tea leaf correctness you can explain away by statistics. Then my girlfriend asked about Johnny because sometimes love makes you ask questions you don't want answered. The planchette moved like it knew the route. June 24th, 1987. Johnny won't have to worry anymore. Then straight to goodbye like a curtain coming down. They read it as permission to hope. They wrote the sentence on a notebook paper, folded it into an envelope, and wrote "open when Johnny gets better" on the front. They brought the envelope to the hospital like a charm. Spring happened in the slow way it happens through glass. Johnny had a week of sunlight and a week that tasted like metal. They pushed the envelope across the bedside tray and said "soon," as if the word could do anything but echo. June 24th woke warm. My girlfriend remembered the phone's ring traveling down the hallway like a small, bright animal. She remembers her mother saying her name the way mothers say it when they're about to carry something with you. The hospital's parking lot smelled like hot tar. The corridor had the geometry of a bad dream. Longer the more you walk it. Johnny's room was loud with quiet. He looked like he had never been anything else but peaceful. Later, because ritual demands payment, they opened the envelope. The date sat there like a solved riddle that didn't save the village. The handwriting was neat. The promise wasn't. My girlfriend kept the paper because she didn't know what else to do with proof that the universe sometimes answers and sometimes the answer hurts. Every June 24th, she texts Shelley a heart and nothing else. They do small living things. Donate in Johnny's name, send a joke he'd have liked, play the song he made them hate by overusing it. Sometimes my girlfriend will take out the envelope and hold it the way you hold a photograph, looking not at the words but at the year around them. She doesn't touch boards now, not because they're evil, because they speak the kind of truth that doesn't care what you meant by asking. At 14, I collected occult hobbies the way other kids collected keychains, tarot, candles, a worn library copy of Ghosts of New England, even though I'd never been. My best friend's birthday sleepover had all of it. Horror movies half-watched through fingers, sugar that made midnight feel like a suggestion, and a handmade Ouija board lettered with a Sharpie that bled through the cardboard. None of us knew the rules. We thought rules were part of the costume. I lasted 20 minutes at the board before my attention wandered. I took my deck to the couch, started turning cards for girls who wanted to know if a boy's silence meant mystery or boredom. In the dining room, the planchette began moving with the hesitant glide of a kid at their first ice rink. Then faster. It changed. Max, he wants you. I didn't know any Max. Your father's voice could turn a wall into glass. Stop. My friends were good. They ended the session badly, but they ended it, and we all pretended to be hungry at once. I slept light and dreamed of a boy whose face I couldn't keep in focus. A year later, different group, different table, only one girl from the original night. We were baking a cake. The timer went off and we ran upstairs. Who's Max? Something in me felt seen from a distance. We finished the cake with the kitchen windows open. The air smelled like sugar cooling and rain coming. Max stuck. If a board showed up, I got invited specifically, like a key being called by the lock. Sometimes I'd hear my name on an empty sidewalk, sharp, like a teacher snapping fingers, and stop, annoyed. Twice I watched a car blow a red light through the space where I would have been if I hadn't paused. Coincidence offers a cheaper comfort than faith. I bought both and paid in attention. I don't pretend I know what Max is. I know what he seems to be, a presence with my file open. I know what he isn't, gone. If we hadn't drawn those letters on cardboard, maybe he would have stayed in whatever corner is assigned to the nearly helpful. Instead, he finds me. I don't use boards now. You can play, but you don't get to pick what plays back. If they insist, I bring salt and skepticism, and I say goodbye like I'm locking a door. Later, walking home, I'll hear my name once, like a hand on my shoulder, and I'll stop long enough to let the world choose not to hit me. I bought the Ouija board the way people buy snacks at the register, spur of the moment, because the display was there and the lighting made everything look like a prop. On the drive home, I decided to leave it in the car. Less conversation that way. The evening unspooled the way evenings do. Shoes by the door, the domestic roll call. How was your day? The soft choreography of a family that knows where the glasses live. When I went to the bedroom to shower, the smell was waiting. Hot, chemical, the specific tang of something electrical burning. I checked the curling iron. Unplugged. I touched every outlet plate like a doctor checking a pulse. Cool. I pressed my nose to the power strip. Nothing. The smell moved anyway, the way a match's after scent threads a room even after the flame dies. I stood in the doorway and remembered a line I'd read. Sometimes when spirits are near, you smell something burning. I felt stupid for thinking it. I also felt watched by something with no eyes. I called my husband. He did the circuit I'd already done and came up empty. I walked into the hall. The smell softened. I stepped back into the bedroom. It stiffened again, like a warning line painted in air. That's when the smaller thoughts arrived. The board's in the trunk. The trunk is basically a room attached to the house. The house has a throat called a hallway, and things travel it all the time. Heat, voices, a smell that wasn't there before we parked. I slept like a person waiting for a noise. Every creak was an announcement. Every absence was a test I kept passing until morning arrived and made me feel dramatic. At 9:02 a.m., I walked the board back into the store with its plastic still tight at the corners. The customer service clerk scanned it without asking why, which felt like mercy. I said, "Did anyone else return one?" She said, "Not today," and smiled like this conversation belonged to retail, not ritual. On the drive home, the car smelled like a car. The house smelled like a house. I don't pretend that means anything metaphysical happened. I'm a reasonable person who sometimes believes unreasonable things, especially when those things can be fixed by handing a box to a stranger and getting a receipt. Coincidence? Maybe. But the smell found a way through walls when the board hadn't, and that's enough of a math problem for me. People love asking if I regret buying it. I don't. Regret belongs to the past. The board belonged to my trunk. Both were close enough to be changed by a short trip. If something wanted a door, I decided not to be one. Sometimes that's the only power we get, to look at the simple objects we've invited into our lives and decide which ones get to stay. Cardboard and ink mean nothing until you lend them your hands. Skeptics call it the ideomotor effect. Believers call it a door. Either way, the ritual works because you decide it does. And some decisions open things that don't like to be closed. If you still feel watched, end your session properly. Thank it, move to goodbye, lift off, and break the line. Then listen to your house breathe. If it breathes back, you forgot a step. I'm Dr. Insomnia. Sleep with the lights almost off, and remember, curiosity is cheap. Closing what you opened is the real cost.